today we cover the whole volume 3 of Akira from chapter 12 to 16. And yeah, actually after this we're gonna decide if we're gonna keep reading Akira or not.
Yeah, it feels weird. I don't think we've ever abandoned any of our like classic series, whether they be manga or anime, midway through. But the podcast is going to be going through some changes next week or next year, I should say. We're restructuring a little bit, so we may not have time for Akira specifically, or even there may not be a lot of classic episodes just in general in the future. We'll figure all that out. We're not going to disappear or anything. Just going to be around a little bit less frequently. But for today, yeah, it's volume 3. This is probably the most action-packed volume thus far.
Yep. I think I know the author style now. Like he loved to put everyone, like every main character to, like one big set piece. And like have like some little climax. So this is like a non-stop action for like for the whole volume.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Akira himself, the kid.
Yep.
He just keeps getting dragged around by everyone.
Yep. And we do learn that he not like fully awake yet. So he just like at the moment everyone just want a piece of him. And he like he just tagging along for now. We don't even see he have like any kind of dialogue at all.
Yeah. And I mean that's it makes sense that Otomo would write it that way, I suppose. Maybe not necessarily from an audience enjoyment perspective, but just out of sheer necessity. Like in the past couple episodes, we've been speculating about how he could arrive at this point at the end of Volume 2, where
Mm-hmm.
Akira has been, unfrozen and is out and about in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
yet, how are you going to maintain the status quo?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's supposed to be this cataclysmic world-ending threat. That's what he's supposed to pose to the Earth, or at
Mm-hmm.
least Japan, or what have you. So how would that possibly work with him tagging along with everybody who wants to like grab his hand and pull him around? Well, the answer is, oh, his powers haven't awakened yet. Um,
Yep.
and then you just have people trading possession of Akira back and forth over and over,
Yep.
pointing guns in each other's faces and being like, "No, he's coming with me now. No, now you hide in a dumpster. No,
Yep.
now let's go down this cluttered alleyway. No, he's mine. No, he's mine."
Yep.
For
Yep.
275 pages.
Did you count?
I mean, there are page
I'm
numbers at the
pretty.
bottom of every page
Yeah.
because I'm reading the Dark Horse version. Even though
All
we're
right.
using
Right.
the Epic Comics version for the chapter numbers.
Thank you. Um, my version, like at the end of this volume, it just it so we normally have like one page per panels. For the last few pages, it's like the whole 2 pages, so it kind of hard to read.
Right. Yeah, I know that on that website, akiramanga.com, it kind of squishes the double
Hmm.
page spreads. It squishes them down.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that I'm not a fan of that. You gotta let the art breathe. I mean,
Yeah, that's
because
true.
really, that's what this whole volume is building up to is the explosion at the
Hmm.
end. Because
Yep.
and especially because in its aftermath, there's like probably 15 pages uninterrupted, no human characters, no dialogue, just shots of a bunch of
The
skyscrapers that
explosion.
have yeah
Yep.
the explosion happening and like the clouds swirling around the black sphere that Akira has created, and then uh, a bunch of buildings that have crumbled and crashed into one another, and all the wreckage, all the corpses and water. Like the city is flooded, um,
Hmm.
and all that. Yeah. So I mean those were my favorite panels of the chapter for sure. Nothing else looked as good as all that wreckage and carnage. Wasn't even close. Like that's what it was all building up to. Clearly,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
rest I was just struggling to catch up.
Follow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just exactly to follow along. Yeah, because I mean, there were some points where I actually wasn't sure what was happening. For example, there was a bizarre series of panels where like Ryu um,
Yep.
is he has like his head stuck through the bars of a gate, and then he gets like hit from behind by Sakaki, one of the psychic
I
children.
don't. All right, I don't think it's true. I know the panel that you're talking about, and I think it just some random soldier tried to shot uh, s- Canada and Kay from the back, but he instead got killed by this kid, and we have like these three kids, I think from uh
Lady Miyako.
yes, from Lady Miyako,
They're
thank
like
you,
her followers.
and you know like they are expert as well, and they just like come in and die in the whole volume, like just
Right.
come and assist.
Yeah, I mean Sakaki is obviously one of Lady Miyako's arms.
Yep.
Like how she influences things that are going on outside of her palace or whatever her church, whatever you want to call that. Um, so she's one of the more important characters. The other two are basically just fodder, who are used
Yeah.
to make like all the big showdowns where, as you said, all the characters kind of come together into one giant set piece. They're used to pump up the numbers of those scenes. And their names were Miki and Mozu, but
Yep.
it's Sakaki who is who was active throughout most of the volume, and it does appear as though she dies at the end when she gets like crushed, as all the buildings are colliding and their like walls are crumbling, their roofs are caving.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Nezu dies that way as well.
Yeah. uh Yeah, but the thing is, even when Sasaki, like, have a bigger role of the whole volume than Mozu and Miki, she's still, like the one who, like who mysteriously appear, and we don't learn much about her, and then she got killed off.
Right. Well, I mean, volume 3 is huge, and I mean, the each volume of Akira is only going to get bigger from here.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like we got to know her reasonably well. We didn't learn anything about her backstory. We didn't really learn too much about her personality, but her role is she's like really fiercely devoted to Lady Miyako. So
Yep. Hmm.
that's like her whole reason for living and for being.
Yep.
So I think she served her purpose. I mean, characters
And
getting killed off. That's gonna the end of volume 3 is like the big escalation. The
mhm.
no more punches are being pulled. We're gonna kill off thousands and tens of thousands, um, in a
Yeah.
matter of
It.
seconds. I don't know exactly how long the buildup was of Akira's big black orb, the
Mhm.
huge explosion, but you better believe there are tons and tons of people dead afterwards. And I mean, Sakaki is just one of them.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's interesting to see like each individual characters, like what their motive and what their like action lead to the that climax. Like the colonels, he's like at first feeling kind of afraid because Akira had been awakened, and he got shut off by like by the government, so that's why he planned to do the coup d'etat,
Yeah, and he's successful.
and he's successful. So like like in a span of just 4 volumes, like a lot have been happening.
4?
Five, right?
Oh
Sorry,
yeah, you mean
chapters,
5 chapters? Yeah,
Yep, yep, yep.
right. I mean, yeah, the treatment of the colonel's character is interesting here because on the one hand, it's clear that all the politicians who decide that he's going to be the fall guy,
Yep.
and that their official position is going to be that Akira has been killed. They're just looking for the most convenient resolution possible to this conflict because they just want to get back to business as usual, and they don't particularly care that Akira poses this massive threat. In fact, they may not even lend that much credence to the theory. Like they may not know the ins and outs of the Akira project.
Yep.
Um, But
I
regardless, like their behavior is clearly being criticized here because they're just turning a blind eye. And so the colonel is he wants to protect Japan, I guess, but at the same
mhm.
time, the colonel engineering the coup d'état is clearly just doing authoritarianism. Like he's seizing power via the military, which is also bad. So there are really no heroes here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's very interesting, but it goes a bit too quickly for me. Like we hear about the coup d'etat, we don't see, like maybe he get full total control, except for I think the like the announcement or highlights that he already succeed.
Yeah, we don't see it happen. We just get
Yeah,
like news broadcasts and
yep.
people gossiping about it, stuff like that.
Hmm.
There's also the
Interesting.
scene where Nezu gets stopped by what is it, a checkpoint, like an
Yep, yep, yep,
army
yep.
checkpoint. I think at that point already, the colonel has seized control of the military
That's right. And we
because
see,
Nezu learns about it prior to that scene because the colonel's assistant with the glasses is like a double agent. He's informing Nezu
yep,
of all
yep, yep,
the colonel's behavior. So Nezu already knows that he needs to be on high alert, and that's why he tells his driver, "When I give you the signal, you just floor it."
yep, yep.
And that's probably even before the halfway point of this
That's true.
volume, I
Yep.
think. So yeah, things are happening pretty fast, and if you're not like closely tracking what's going on, you will get left behind. And
The yeah, the thing is, if you get lost behind, it still doesn't really matter that much,
yeah,
because like everyone just gather all together at the final showdowns. Oh,
yeah,
I
and I
said
think
final, but
even before that big showdown at the end, where all the characters have come together, isn't there at one point like before that where everyone's in the exact same spot? Like before the sun
uh,
rises and it's still dark and they're all chasing each other through the middle of the street. There's a point where all of them are kind of together.
yeah, kind of yes, but yeah, I agree. We see a lot of Nezu this in this volume.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he
Uh,
becomes way more prominent. I think probably because Otomo probably needed a way to represent like the political end of this
yep.
entire volume, I guess. Like you
Hmm.
have all the faceless politicians whose faces we can see, but they don't really matter. They're the ones who pin the blame for the explosion and the SOL laser being fired from space on the colonel. So, we obviously know what to think of all those guys based on their irresponsibility there. But Nezu is like the face of politics and bureaucracy. And it's
Hmm.
not a very pretty face, either like literally or figuratively. Not only does he look like a rat, but Lady Miyako remarks at one point that he has a face that just like it just looks completely avaricious, like greedy.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so
Yeah.
not a big fan of bureaucrats, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that I just realized that like this film in particular, and to the extent of the Akira's manga, is that there's a lot of people who like doing double cross our show,
Right.
our channels, and so it really had to see like where they really like stand for. Like we just talk about the police who just behind the colonel who being a double agent, and Nezu as well. So he been following he been following
Lady Miyako.
sorry, Lady Miyako's, but he tried to cross that path now, and he tried to shut off Ryu, and yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things have happened. I don't really know what he wants at the end. Maybe just power.
Well, he tries to shoot Akira at the end, and he misses
Yep.
and hits what's his face, Takashi.
Takashi
Yeah,
instead. Yes.
number 26, 28, whatever his number is.
Yep.
Um, so I think the reason that he shoots at Akira at that point is that he doesn't want him to fall into
The
the.
hands of the colonels.
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, like you said, it's hard to know. Is it the colonel that he doesn't want to have control of Akira, or is it the government? um, or is it Lady Miyako? I don't really know.
yeah. But
I can't tell.
and
And even
yeah.
at the end when he says to Sakaki, you may not believe this, but I was a true follower of Lady Miyako, and I, you know, I was eventually gonna come back around and like beg for her forgiveness. Um, you know, it beyond not knowing whether or not he's telling the truth, it almost doesn't matter because he's
Yep.
clearly so self-interested.
Yep.
Whatever the reason is for his actions, like as we get deeper and deeper into this volume and things become more and more chaotic, he and most other people, it would stand to reason, would start to act more and more selfishly and more out of self interest
Hmm.
because things are becoming less and less certain and you want to take care of yourself.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think he kind of exemplifies that. He takes that to the extreme.
Yep. 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 That's true. Yep. That's interesting though, because at one point in this volume, he has control of Akira.
Everybody has control of Akira at least one point,
That
usually multiple
that's true.
points. This volume, he
Yeah,
just
that
keeps ping ponging around the plot.
yeah, that's true.
You're talking about the boat, right? When
Yeah,
Kay
yep,
brings him to the boat,
yep.
and at that point, as a reader, you still think. I mean, you get the sense that Nezu is like he's betraying Lady Miyako, and he's just in it for himself. That's already like revealed to us at that point, but you still think, well, maybe he's still sympathetic to the rebels' cause, and he
Hmm.
wants to stop Akira from his like power from being abused.
Yep.
Um,
No.
yeah, that's not even true. But at that point, like there's still a shred of like hope for him, I guess. But then he orders his men to just kill Kaneda K and Chiyoko.
Oh, right. We have that lady as well.
Yeah, I think we
Who?
met her in volume 2, but now
Yep.
she's like an action
Badass.
heroine.
Yeah. I would say she even like more badass than Canada or okay, which is saying a lot.
Yeah,
She,
well, she's an
like her.
adult. First of all,
Yeah.
second of all, she's bigger and stronger than they are,
Yeah.
and she knows how to drive a tank.
Yeah.
Dude, the tank scenes in this volume were like my least favorite. I didn't even understand
Oh,
what the point was of them getting in the tank.
I just think that like it's just a lot cooler for them to like get into the tank and basically wreak havoc as well. So I think the tank just there's a scene where it completely destroy it destroyed many houses and buildings, but there's a scene where it's this destroy a part of the house where a an old man and old woman are sleeping, and they like they just surprise.
Yeah,
I know you catch that, and I think it just yeah it feel appropriate. I say with like the whole context of Akira, like going bigger, going more extreme, and the tank is just do the trick.
I guess. I mean, is the point of the series to deliver some sort of message or to say something at all, or is the point just to
I
blow up buildings and run through houses with tanks and shoot at each other
I
with machine guns? Like, what is the point here?
I think it's more of Otomo I interest in like having gadgets and a tank here. Like at 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 the beginning of this volume, we also see uh the the things like the thing where's the emergency code,
The caretakers.
the caretakers. That's right. And we see it roaming around, and they also said that it can withstand the nuclear explosion, so that I think it just add add much to the cyberpunk.
Well, this isn't really a cyberpunk manga.
Yeah, well,
It's definitely the cyber part is definitely not there.
that's
This is the
true.
this is the future, and we do have like floating little chairs and capsules and things for the psychics to use, but those are like powered via their psychic abilities.
Yep.
Um, so the only cyberpunk-ish part, I guess, are the those thingamajigs, the caretakers, which are also referred to as spheres by the people in the military. Um, and the only reason I think that they have that sort of cyberpunk image to them is that they remind me of the Tachikomas from Ghost in the Shell.
Right. Yep.
I mean, that's what I
Uh-huh.
thought of immediately as soon as I saw them. They don't have like the little chirpy voices, but they're.
Yeah, but
When Kaneda first sees one, he's like, "What are these spider things?" And that's exactly how the Tachikomas are referenced in Ghost in the Shell.
yeah, now would you think that the Tachikoma is are influenced by like by the design of these caretakers in Akira?
Well, most likely, but I mean, there's probably a common point of origin for both of them,
Hmm.
like some piece of concept art or
Yep.
some other story that uses robots like that.
Yep.
I don't know.
So so it's interesting that I think the even the colonels and Nezu they are opposed to each other, but they basically have the same idea when it comes to Akira. They they want to first get try to get total control of Akira before he awakes, and then if that fail, they try to kill Akira.
Does the Colonel ever try to kill Akira in this volume?
Yeah, because I remember when he come talk to the three experts that the three of them say like we want to look for Akira, we want to retrieve Akira, and I think the colonel like at one point want to retrieve Akira in order to kill him. I think that's what his motive are.
I don't remember him saying anything like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, maybe he would do it if he felt that he had to, but he does seem to be pretty cooperative with the psychic kids.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, there is that point, I think is this is what you were alluding to early on in this volume where he's having like a meeting, like a sit down meeting with the three of them,
Yep.
Takashi, Kyoko, I think is
Hmm.
the girl's name, the girl who can see the future,
Yep.
and then
Kyoko.
Masaru is the one who looks like ancient.
Yep.
I mean, all of them look ancient, but Masaru is the one who he kind of looks like Nezu almost. Um,
Right. Yep.
and he's just having like a meeting with the three of them. They're like, we want to see Akira. He's one of us. And the colonel's like, I came here to say we were going to do exactly that.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't imagine that he has a very humanitarian point of view or motivation for treating them well or communicating with them, cooperating with them. But I don't think he would like have it in his mind to go out and murder Akira while at the same time bringing these kids along with him, having them operating under the assumption that they're going to save him.
Hmm. Yep. 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 Yep.
Though he did just take over the government, so maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I think along that we haven't talked about our main characters, Canada and Case. Like they keep taking a lot. They keep being like the surprise element of all the story.
Yeah, it's
So
weird that the main characters would be the surprise element.
that is true. But yeah, when it comes to like the whole world explode and like the coup d'etat, the two parties like are opposed to each other. I would say that Canada and K are the surprise element.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense because there is a lot of focus on the military and Nezu and Lady Miyako as well.
Hmm.
More of the institutions who have designs for Akira and for the future of Neo Tokyo and everything. And they're kind of
Hmm.
like just the scrappy underdogs, Kaneda K and Shioko, I mean,
Yep.
who are like throwing inflatable life rafts at people and punching people through them. There was that really excellent panel of, you remember the gunman
Yep.
on the boat
Yep.
who's
Yep.
trying to kill him, and Chiyoko throws the life raft up at him.
Yep.
It expands in his face, and the imprint of her fist through it like punches him. And then just
Yep.
a few pages later, Kaneda vomits onto another of the gunmen, and then like pushes him overboard or throws a box at his head, I think, and
Yep.
he gets pushed overboard that way.
Yep.
So
Yep.
definitely some unorthodox fighting styles being employed here.
And it's funny the way that Canada, like after throwing up, he just said like, I'm not sure it because of the poison or because I'm just seasick.
Right. Yeah, I think that was probably Otomo's way of just being like, who cares about the fact that he was just poisoned? Just forget about it. Doesn't
Yep.
matter. Maybe he was
Yep.
just seasick. Who cares? Like, you should be dead by all rights.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but maybe the guy messed up when he was preparing the food. He didn't put enough in, or throwing it up, like got it out of his system. You're not supposed to think about it too hard. Just like you're not supposed to think too hard about the fact that they hijack a tank. Um, in
Yep.
that series of panels that like it's supposed to be comedic, I think. Kaneda, because Kaneda is like giving he knocks over the guy who's on the outside, the commander, I guess. The guy who's on the outside of the tank telling the man inside where to aim. He knocks him out.
Yep.
So the guy who's inside the tank piloting it comes up out of his little cave or whatever,
Yep.
and at the same time that he is conversing with his commander and a bunch of other people, like, get a medic, this guy, he's been hurt.
Yep.
at the
He
same
knocked us
time
go.
at the
Yep.
same time, Kaneda is like, let's go, everybody. I mean, how hard can it be to pilot a tank? It's probably just like a video game, right? I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
the guy who I just knocked out, he was a complete idiot. Like, we can just hijack this tank, no problem. Their
Yep.
conversations are happening in the same panel, like they're overlapping.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And
Yep.
it's just, you're just not supposed, just the same way that he was poisoned, but then he was fine afterwards. You're not supposed to
Yep.
think too hard about the
Yep.
fact that they hijacked a tank from a bunch of experienced, army men,
Yep.
no problem,
Yeah.
while they
No
were standing
problem.
5 feet away.
Yeah. At the same time as well, Ryu is completely lost his plot. I think he just like just he's the one who doesn't know what's going on, but he managed to like just be around at the right time.
Right. He managed to hear something, a noise from within the dumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Save kid.
he kind of got he wasn't really forgotten about, but he got downgraded. He got demoted in
Yeah.
this volume
Uh,
because
yeah.
he's not, now that Nezu is dead,
Yep.
like, Ryu was most relevant because he was part of this rebel faction that reported to Nezu. But
Right.
now
Yep.
that the world has blown up, or Neo Tokyo, um, it matters a lot less that he wants to rebel against the government.
Mhm.
Because what government? Martial law has been declared, and the whole city is wrecked. It doesn't. The fact that he's a rebel doesn't matter anymore because that conflict is over, and
Yep.
all that remains is like wreckage.
Yep.
So, I guess him getting a reduced role was kind of like almost preparation for the fact that things were not going to look even remotely the same after this volume. He just didn't have much of he didn't figure into the plot in a particularly meaningful way.
Mhm.
Though
Interesting.
he is still alive. I mean, you got to figure a lot of the inhabitants of the city are dead, but some of the people who were closest to the action were saved by Masaru and Kyoko. I think I'm not 100% sure on Kyoko's name. I think that's it. I hope I'm not
Yeah.
confusing her
Kyoko.
with. It is Kyoko.
Kyoko. Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah,
said right.
he is one of the people who were saved, along with Kay and who else? The Colonel, probably.
I don't remember that scene at all.
Well,
So
you remember
I
they teleport a bunch of people away to the top of a building.
Right.
But for some reason, Kaneda he's taken up to the top of a building, but not as far as everybody else. I didn't really get how or why that worked. Um,
Mm.
but he doesn't get clear of the blast zone like some of the other characters, and so he gets swallowed up. And it
Mm.
seems, at least, as though Akira has killed its protagonist.
I very much doubted that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the only reason that I have to doubt it is that I've seen the film. And
Uh
so
huh.
I know that the film ends with a massive showdown between Kaneda and Tetsuo. And
Yep.
that hasn't happened yet in the manga.
Yep.
So, I figure unless the film fabricated that ending completely, Kaneda is probably still alive.
Yep.
But people who were reading this for the first time in the 80s may have thought that he was dead. I mean, think about the way that it ends, that this volume ends. It's Tetsuo and Akira in the
Yep.
middle of a little miniature ocean with the
Yep.
little beam of sun coming down, implying that
I
this is like a new beginning, like the whole all of Neo Tokyo is like being born anew, and Kaneda is not a part of that equation, at least at this point, like by the end of Volume 3.
I love that shot. Yeah. I just think that it's really like cinematic,
Yeah,
standing out.
I think that especially because Otomo was later quoted as saying like animation is his mistress, with regards to like which he favors more, um, manga or anime. He
Yep.
said manga is his wife, but animation is his mistress. So I think that as he got deeper and deeper into his career as a mangaka, he probably took more care to frame things, um, you know, filmically.
Yep. And actually, the very last shot, we have them, like floating, to the light, to the beam lights.
Hmm.
It's just like ascending to, heaven.
Ascending. What do you
Yeah,
mean? You
they
think they're being carried away by that light?
it does give you the illusion of that, but they are psychic, so it probably not.
Wait a minute. Did so that you thought that in that final panel they weren't like on the ground, whatever it was that they
Yeah,
were sitting or standing on, maybe the top of a building or just some giant piece of rubble or something. You thought that their feet had left that surface and that they were like they were moving upwards.
yeah. That's what I think because I'm at the last panel right now, and I see like two figures like just in the middle of the air.
Huh.
Yep.
Oh,
Uh,
I didn't notice that somehow, even though I spent plenty of
right.
time looking at that last page. Um, Interesting.
You.
I mean, it
I
kind of
think.
it reminds me of Noah's Ark, the story in the
Yep.
Bible
Mm.
of um,
Uh-huh.
Noah and his family, and then two of every animal. They all get on, and then the world is destroyed by a flood.
Yep.
But then eventually they find land, and then the sky opens up. I mean, maybe the sky opening up is not like a biblical detail, but
Yep.
if you were going to make a movie out of it, that would probably happen. Um,
Yep.
it kind of reminds me of that, like the world being destroyed and being born anew. It's kind of intriguing to me that Akira, who is, you know, Akira, I guess I can understand because he's like the picture of innocence, even though he has this terrible potential. He's also just a child. But
Yep.
Tetsuo, he's like a villain. So the fact that he is part of this scene of rebirth, that's why to me, if I put myself in the mind of somebody who read this a long time ago, I might think to myself, oh, so this is like a protagonist change. Like this is the moment when Tetsuo takes over as the leading character
Hmm.
because he's here in this final panel in the moment when Neo Tokyo is reborn.
That's an interesting take. Uh, yeah, I still don't know what to make of it. Purely because I don't really know what Akira personality gonna be, and like what is he, what is his role in the future. he's the a life changer for sure. Like he like the catalyst, but because he totally mysterious, so I still don't know how the story gonna goes from here.
Yeah, me neither. It feels kind of like an ending,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, true.
though. It clearly isn't because we know that there are three more volumes, but
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, maybe if you had read this, let's say 40 years ago, which is about when it was published, would you think that there was more to the story?
Oh, I would say so. I would say that they like the readers will have an idea that the story haven't been ended yet, right?
Well,
Like to be continued and stuff.
what would the ending be?
Yeah, true. Like I still say that they still don't know the full potential of Akira for once. So they need to find more out about Akira and like what to deal with Akira's the whole thing. So I would think that they still expect more about Akira's.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's the title character,
Yeah.
and I mean, he has in the sense that his potential was one of destruction.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that the his name was like synonymous for most of the manga that we've read, at least so far, these three volumes. Every time his name was brought up, it was like, oh yeah, he's the one who's gonna destroy the earth and stuff. Um, in that sense, he has fulfilled his potential because that's exactly what he did. For a long time, he was dormant, asleep, whatever, and then he wakes up and kind of empathically as a result of seeing or feeling Takashi being shot, that like overloads his senses and he blows everything up, and that's what we were expecting that he would do this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the final panel, in addition to feeling like an ending, can also feel like a beginning because
Yep.
now that Akira has done this, um, I mean, we know Akira is an innocent, and Tetsuo is, uh, I guess, evil. Um,
Yep.
Certainly, he doesn't have like the cleanest record in terms of not murdering people.
Yep.
So there's potential between the two of them for either innocence or villainy to win out, and there's like still a tension between what those two characters represent.
Mhm.
So you might expect that there would be more in just because there's potential for more there. But
Yep.
I'm thinking about manga like Devilman, for example, which end with the apocalypse. Like the end of the world is the end of Devilman. Um,
Or even Evangelion, like aim with like a change to the new worlds.
right. End of Evangelion specifically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but that does come after Akira by a good like 13, 14 years, something like that. In
I
terms
I
of
I yeah. I actually feel very interesting that we compare that scene to the noir arc because like out of all anime I would say that it's Evangelion who like who might doing that in on purpose. For Akira though we don't see any of these like Christianity and like faith religion like as a theme for Akira, so that just might be
we
uh
we don't see fate or religion as a theme for Akira.
a little bit, right?
Lady
Now that
Miyako,
yeah, Lady Miyako and the whole cult. Huh.
yeah, she even says like she has a whole bunch of dialogue about fate. Um,
Hmm.
she says like out loud to herself, "Not even I can stand against fate for too long." And
Hmm.
she in
Hmm.
back in volume 2, she said something to the effect of what was it exactly? That eventually like a fate that couldn't be avoided came to pass, and that was
Yep.
Akira being woken up.
Yep. Hmm. Hmm. So maybe it did allusion to the to the religion and stuff. Hmm.
I don't know
Interesting.
exactly. I mean, her. being the head of a cult and being kind of a religious figure, that's not that's not exactly what we know her for as the audience, but it's what the characters who are in this universe know her for.
Hmm.
Because a whole bunch of people in the wake of the blast are like coming to her sanctuary and being like, "Please let us in, Lady Miyako. Show mercy on us,"
Yep.
as though she's some sort of like religious figure.
Hmm.
So that's how she's perceived in the world of Akira. But we mostly see her as like a mysterious person who's pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Yep.
Um, and in our minds, she's perhaps more linked to the psychic children because we know that she's branded with one of those numbers as well.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
She's the result of government experimentation.
Yep. All right. So this come to my last questions. After this volume, are you keen to, like check more out of Akira?
I don't know. I mean, not really.
Hmm. I,
I just while I was reading this, I just got the sense that like a lot of this felt like wheel spinning to me, with Akira being passed around between a bunch of different characters, and the whole scene with the tank rampaging through the city and a bunch of people shooting at each other, resulting in confusion about who was who,
mm-hmm.
and the scene where they where Kaneda, Kei, and Chiyoko, they run the boat into the bridge as a
Right.
way of making their, they make their way back into Neo Tokyo after being out at sea. Um, and there's a whole bunch of panels dedicated to the ship crashing into the bridge and people being like, "Ah, I'm falling."
Yep.
I just, it feels like a lot of chaos for chaos's sake, and that's
Uh-huh.
not really that interesting to me. The end of the volume is like really attention grabbing,
Yep.
and kind of has me curious. But for the bulk of these 5 chapters, I was like, I'm just kind of reading along, not really too invested.
Yeah, I would say the same. I would say that it's more action packed than I thought. Like the whole manga series, not this, like not this volume. I would say that the character there's like one never ending action just going on, and like the stakes just keep getting higher, which I think is fine. It's all right, but also that's make the all the characters seem to be flat for me. And like you said, it come to the point where many of the actions seem either pointless, because like we know that they're gonna be eventually at the end for the final climax. It's just like explosion just going big for for big sake.
Yeah, Otomo likes to draw this stuff.
Hmm.
That's why it's
Yep.
worked into the story. I think he just likes drawing things that have been destroyed or blown up. Um, you know, that's that that probably dates back to him like drawing stuff when he was a kid.
Yep.
He's interested in like infrastructure and machinery and engineering and all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff, and he puts it into his work. But you, it feels to me like, I mean, characters are getting themselves in and out of predicaments, especially Kei, Kaneda, and Chiyoko. They're like, man, I don't know. It just feels like they're, the game Mousetrap, the board game. You ever
I
played
think
that?
I heard of that, but I never played that before.
Well, have you ever played any sort of board game where you can take like a long way and a short way? Like there's a way that's really twisty and turny and it takes more time to get to the
Yep.
end,
All
or
right.
there's just a straight line
All
that can
right.
get you
I
there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right.
It just feels like this entire volume was just one really big series of like loops and twirls and twists when there could have been a quicker way to the end.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
obviously, the end is massive, so you have to build up to it. You can't just go straight there.
Yep.
But you also don't have to send the characters on a I don't know. I was gonna say wild goose chase, but I guess it's kind of a wild goose chase. Akira is
Yep.
the goose, and
Hmm.
everybody is everybody who doesn't have him is chasing him, and everybody who has him is like, hide in here, go over there. go to this room and sleep. Now,
Yep.
quick, go that way. I just wasn't like a fan of how long
Yep.
it how long this volume was, man. It just felt so long. And I didn't
Yep.
even read it all in one sitting either. I spaced it out over 2 days. But I was still like, when is this gonna be over?
Yeah. Well, I would say that yeah. As for Otomo, I we will only see his short segment, right? I have never seen Steam Boy, so I'm not really sure how good that is. My point is that I'm more impressed of him doing like his stuff in Memories, for example, or like the opening segment of Robot Carnival than like say Akira's manga. I need to rewatch Akira the movie to see if it's still it's still with me.
I really enjoyed the movie. Um,
Mm,
so I'm also just not a big manga fan
yeah.
in general. So that's going to be a contributor to my dissatisfaction. Just any time that I'm not really feeling like I'm into a manga, it's part of it will be that I don't really like manga that much. But certainly a manga are capable of like impressing me,
Yeah.
and this one hasn't done that so far, except for the end of this volume, and points in the previous two volumes as well.
Right. So yeah, me and Whooper gonna decide whether we're gonna keep Akira or not. At this point in time, I do think that we can do another classic show, but we're gonna try to figure that what the title is if we're gonna do that, or like the way that we're gonna record it as well.
Right. Yeah. For now, we're coming up on the holiday season, so we're going to postpone any sort of questions about what's up next
Yep.
till
Yep.
after Christmas, New Year's. But we do
Yep.
have some stuff coming up, like our most anticipated anime of 2023, our
Yep.
top 10 anime of 2022, and following all that in mid-January, we're going to do what we do best, which is first impressions of a new batch of anime,
Yay.
winter 2023. So we've
Yep.
got stuff coming up back to back to back weeks in
Yep.
January, and then we'll figure out what's
Yep.
after that once we get there.
Yep. 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 Alrighty, so for all you listeners, just enjoy the Christmas season. Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to you. See you in 2023.
See you then.